Okay, so I'm not going to lie, this turned out more challenging than I was anticipating. I still think we're moving in the right direction. It's going to come out fairly well, but yeah, you know, anything worth doing that's exceptional is worth the challenge, right? What's going on, bonsai friends? I'm Dave. Thanks for checking out Kotaku Bonsai. So we're going to work on 2 tanukis today, and I was able to pick up these 2 junipers from a big box store recently, but they were exactly what I've been looking for. These are Hollywood junipers, so they're columnar, they're upright, which you'll see with my deadwood pieces are fairly upright, so these will match very well to that. They're young, they're very, very flexible still, and they've got this beautiful, like, bright kind of lime green foliage. I know I'm under the shadow of our big maple tree right now, so hopefully the color's going to come through, but these are pretty much exactly what I've been looking for the last 6 to 12 months or so. And so we're going to take some time to put them together. First things first, I'm going to retouch the deadwood with a little more lime sulfur before we construct the final composition today. It's a beautiful day. We finally don't have the smoke from those Canadian wildfires, so it's nice to be outside. I'm going to coat them with lime sulfur. I'm going to let them dry in the sun for a little bit. I'm going to go get some lunch, and then by the magic of video production, we're going to jump right back to this in a couple seconds. So hang out with me for a little bit, and we're going to put together some tanuki. And we're back. Here we go. So with our tanuki project here, obviously a tanuki is a graft of live foliage onto deadwood. And there's a couple steps which are maybe different from just styling one piece of material. But anyway, it starts with some common themes. I've got a pot prepared, and I'm gonna grab a piece of deadwood, and I think we're gonna start with this one. This is the larger of the 2. It's about 6 inches taller than this one, but I have 2 very tall, lanky pieces of deadwood. So we're gonna get this out of the pot. I'm gonna comb it out a little bit to see what the root base looks like, and then try to start matching it up onto the deadwood so that we can put together something that looks very pleasing. So I'm going to grab a piece of deadwood and let's dive in. So I think we're going to use this guy. It's yellow right now because of the lime sulfur, but over time it should bleach the wood. I have these metal risers on the bottom. If you didn't see the video I put together with that project, be sure to take a look at it because it'll show you the purpose of it, which is to lift it up from the base of the pot so that ideally it will prevent rot to some degree. And instead of having like a brick or a large stone underneath these risers gives us some negative space for roots to grow through there as well. So if we're looking at these two here, the juniper is certainly taller than this piece of deadwood, and that's fine because we're going to trim it and we're going to let it grow and then, you know, style it, of course. But I think those will be our two to work with. So we're going to get this guy out of the pot, get some of the soil away from the roots. We're not going to totally bare root it, but I do have some large grit bonsai substrate that we're going to, of course, fill into the roots so that it can grow. So let's start with getting this guy out of the pot. And I got my root rake in here too. This is a two-pronged root rake. You can see there. I do have a smaller 3-tooth one. But we're just gonna kind of get the top off here. I hope that your spring and early summer is going well, guys. It's been a month or so since I posted a last video. I've had some stuff going on at work and in life. You know how that goes. But I've always been thinking about what's the next video, what's the next project. I'm sure you do too. I mean, if you're watching this right now, you love trees and plants and growing things and creating beautiful compositions. That's what it's about, right? So as I get down in here, I can see some white tips on the roots. It's not totally root bound, but it is vigorous. So it's just kind of breaking up the root ball. And as I'm doing this, kind of work ahead a little bit. A lot of times, Tanukis are joined, or I should say the plant is joined to the driftwood with screws or nails, something like that, fasteners. I'm not going to do that today with these for a couple reasons. First of all, this material right here is still fairly young. The main trunk line is pretty thin. It's a pencil and a half width at the bottom, and it's definitely a half a pencil width to the top. So it's really not even big enough to start putting screws through. Maybe down the road as it thickens up, I would. But for today, for now, I'm going to use clear zip ties. So that should be able to hold it in the shape that I want it. And it should be effective and allow the tree to grow and kind of on its own graft itself onto the deadwood. But then a clear plastic zip tie shouldn't be too obtrusive. You know, I'm hoping that it won't be too distasteful. Of course, some of you probably already cringing about that, but you know. All right, let's kind of get some of this out of the way. It's a beautiful day to be working out here in the shade. Oh man, it's great. We've been stuck inside the last couple of days. All right, so we're definitely getting there. Just kind of combing through there. All right. So of course we got to remember this is going to be the size of our pot. This is about 3 inches deep. And so we're going to take off, you know, a fair amount of these roots. Just kind of give it a trim along the base. Put that guy there. Let's do regular old secateurs here. All right. So, guess I gotta sharpen up my secateurs. Not to worry. This project has been, I don't know, 2 years in the making since I got the juniper that died and then gave me this driftwood. That was a couple years ago. And then it took me a while to get to it, you know, strip the bark off and prepare the deadwood and then stain it and, or, you know, gin seal it and then seal it again. And then it's winter time and then, you know, some of the projects slow down. So bonsai is about patience. And get rid of just a few more of these in the all right, so that should be pretty nice. And what we'll do is we're going to end up spreading some of these roots out. So if we kind of, let's get up in there. You can feel the base of the tree there. There's a bit of a taproot, so we're going to take that real thick guy out. Another reason I'm going to use zip ties is because, like I said earlier, I got these at a big box store. And, you know, you're never really guaranteed the quality of the trees there. I mean, last year I got a Kwanzaa cherry tree from the same store. And I brought it home, and within 2 weeks, it was dead. And so it's just an unfortunate reality. So in the off chance that these junipers die off kind of quickly, then I haven't really mangled the deadwood with a whole bunch of screw holes and that kind of thing. So I'm being a little more judicious in the beginning. Just there we go. Okay, so I think we got this down to a pretty manageable size. I'm going to go ahead and sweep off the workstation, and then we're going to start connecting the two of them here like this, and then see where that takes us. So hang tight, I'm going to clean up, be right back. Alrighty. So just looking at this guy now, I think this branch that goes upright can come off. There we go. So that gives us more of a nice trunk line there. This low-hanging one here can come off. We're just opening up, oh, let's say the bottom quarter of the trunk. think what we'll do is also take this guy, and then we'll leave it at that. So I've got other branches up top. Of course, we can select our first branch. Once we've grafted this, or so to speak, onto the deadwood, we don't want to limit ourselves too much yet. So we'll be able to fit that in there nice. And so if we look at the curve of this trunk, you know, it's very gentle. It's a very gentle curve. Pardon me. And so, you know, we'll kind of experiment with some angles. See if we can get it to graft on a really nice, ooh, actually, I like that a lot there. Bingo. That really hugs really nicely. So actually, let's see it from different angles, because ultimately I want to have this wrapping around the deadwood. If needed, I've got a trunk splitter. We can kind of do something like that if needed. I'm going to get some of these smaller little clusters off there. Just again here, try from some different angles. Or if we just take it to the other side, it's kind of leaves too much of a gap. Same there. If we take it this way. So some people with their bonsais prefer a front and a back. Some people prefer a tree which is multi-dimensional that really could look great from any angle. I think with these projects here, there's pretty much going to be one designated front to it. And I think that's probably going to be it. It just seems to hug the tree really well there. And I do, personally, I do want to see the trunk line of this at certain spots along the height of the Tanuki. I didn't carve a channel into which to like insert the trunk. I didn't really want to do that because I really, personally, I just wanted to have that three-dimensional relief of the trunk growing along the deadwood. So I think that angle is going to work. These are the clear zip strips that I got. So I'm going to open these up and put one or two at the base just to anchor it in. And then of course we're going to have to anchor it into the pot so that the whole thing is anchored into it. And then we got to work up the rest of it to, you know, get the angle of the graft right. So got the knife. All right, so I just got these clear zip strips. They're about, you know, a foot long. And I'm gonna put a couple down at the base just to keep it secure so it doesn't move. That kind of gouged the bark, didn't it? Yeah, I don't like that. Let's take that off. Yeah, boy, that really bit into it. Well, that's a bummer. All right, so maybe the zip strips is not going to be a viable option for us here. You know, but I don't want to just leave it unattached. Pardon me. Maybe I have to go back to the drawing board on this. Huh. Okay, so here's what I got. Off camera, I played around with this to see if I could get it to match up nicer. I couldn't really with that piece of deadwood. So I got a different, one of the other two pieces of deadwood. And again, I played around with the base and the angles, and I was actually able to get two zip strips up here at the top on more of the green tissue. And it didn't bite in really well or very hard. I was very delicate. I got the base taken care of, so that should heal up fairly well. But I was able to get the juniper to really hug the side here. So it's tighter, more like I was hoping for. And I think this is going to be okay for now. I mean, it doesn't look like much because it's going to have to thicken up over the years. I am going to wire some of the branches downwards, more to like this line here. So they'll be drooping, they'll be downward facing. And then of course the pads hopefully will thicken up in the coming years, and then I'll take the zip strips off. And if it needs to be anchored more firmly with screws, we can do that down the road. But for now, I think what we'll do is we're going to try to just get this anchored into the pot and get the roots watered so they don't dry out too much right here. Okay, so I'm not going to lie, this turned out more challenging than I was anticipating. I still think we're moving in the right direction. It's going to come out fairly well, but yeah, you know, anything worth doing that's exceptional is worth the challenge, right? So here's what we got so far. And like this. What I did at the bottom to anchor this, I used some pretty heavy gauge wire, and I did it, I made the U shaped down so that the ends pop out through the bottom of the pot, and I twisted it underneath rather than the opposite that I typically do, which would be to run the tops up through the pot and then twist it on the top parts to anchor the tree down. This seemed to work out better to do it the opposite. It's very well anchored on 3 points, so it should be pretty secure. And I think we're just going to go ahead and get some soil substrate in the pot here, and then think about wiring some of the branches. Just using the old chopstick method to work the soil down in between all the roots without making a huge mess. It's nice when you're using the chopstick. You know, you get all the pieces down in between the roots and things start to firm up. And even that in and of itself can help to anchor the tree into the pot better. This piece is going to be a little top heavy, so I'm going to have to be more conscientious of it as it's sitting on my bench, that it doesn't continuously blow over. And so that brings up the question of how to secure it to the bench that isn't so obtrusive. Let's just pull that root right out. This piece of foliage. And I'm trying to get underneath the deadwood, underneath those risers there, push some soil into there. Because I don't want to hold, I want the negative space in there so that the roots can fill in, but I don't want like large air pockets. You know, I've had all kinds of stuff happen with my bonsai through the years. Like, you know, I had some trees that I'd uprooted in nursery containers that the bees infiltrated and built a nest, and then I got attacked by bees when I went to move the pot. Got a mild anaphylaxis and had to go into the urgent care. That was no fun. All kinds of stuff, you know. So just kind of building this up here. I think we're getting close. Get a little bit more on this side. And as we get to the top, I don't have to be as aggressive with the chopstick. We're just kind of filling in the gaps there. You know, topping off the soil level. I like to kind of pat it down like this just to see if, you know, we get everything really compacted into there. All right. And as I hoped, just there's a tiny little spot right there where you could see a little metal riser, but otherwise it's completely hidden under the soil. So that's great. You can't see any metal. So I got my measurements right. The vision there came out pretty well, so I like that. I like that a lot. I don't know if I'm going to do this right away. That little branch got broken, so we're just going to take it off. But of course, these foliage pads will get to develop, onto both sides. And of course, it's going to be a while until we can create a really full apex, because it's such a stick of a tree right now. But just to get the basics down is a big help. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to water this guy and put him on the turntable and show you 360 what we've got. And just take off the ends of this strip here, just like that. All right, guys, so cleaned up the bench here. And just studying this a little bit here, I'm going to not wire branches in place today. And I hope you're not too disappointed, because, maybe you're hoping to see some kind of finished Bonsai Tanuki here today. And I would love to. However, I just feel like this is going to need some time to rest and recover. This is early June. It's not too crazy hot out, but I just feel like this would be better to leave for a little bit before we do anything more drastic. The other thought I had too is, you can see the trunk line is going to hug the side of the deadwood, and I don't want to have these branches crossing the deadwood. Any branches on this side are going to have to come from the back side, and so these are still very small, 4 inches, 5 inches. But I'm going to need them to come from the back side to fill in to this here. I don't want to have anything that crosses the main center line of the deadwood. That's just going to be kind of ugly. And I don't have that right now. This is still too much of a juvenile plant. So unfortunately, I think I'm just going to leave it like this today. We'll revisit this in future videos, of course. It's a work in progress, far from being done. But the nature of working with bonsai is patience, and I will implore you to be patient and understanding, and I'll get back to this one and show you updates in future videos. So thanks for hanging out with me today. We'll see you in the next one.